Thanks, Joe. My name is Bridget. I'm an addict. Thank you for this opportunity. This is I'm really nervous right now because this means a lot to me. And to be in a room with so many people whose recovery I respect, you know, it's a little nerve-wracking. But so we humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. My experience with the 7-step is that the first time I did it, I was not so humble. And I know that's the point of the step, right? You gain a lot more humility through this step. But I was so broken and beaten and watched my character defects flip my life upside down again in recovery with clean time, working steps that, I mean, I was hopeless beyond belief the first time I worked this step. And I should just tell you guys the exact moment. So it was the winter time. It was right after the holidays, and I had gotten fired from like a long string of jobs being fired from, but this time I was working for my family, and my dad fired me. And because I got fired from the family company, I had to move out, and somebody took the car I was borrowing away, and like all this stuff. So I was essentially homeless, jobless, and carless. Halfway through the steps in the winter, it's blizzarding in Chicago, and I'm like, I know I don't want to use drugs because that's what got me here. So you guys said this was going to get better. Everything's gotten worse. Like, I came in here with a job and a car and a place to stay, and now, like, what? I really wanted to kill myself. And so there was a meeting, specifically, I'll never forget where, that I used that burning desire and shared about it, and you guys swarmed me for like the next week until I got through that period. And so I was begging and pleading with my higher power, like, change me, fix me, you know, all these sorts of, and it was so bad, my thoughts just would not stop, that there was a period of time, a couple weeks, where it was, God, please help me, God, please help me, God, please help me, help me, God, please help me, God, please, over and over and over to drown out my thoughts. My higher power showed up, and a lot of my defects and my shortcomings were were more evident in certain situations, right, with certain types of people, and I couldn't really see that. And so that whole thing where God does for you what you can't do for yourself, and removed all these things in my life that allowed me to be this defective and have all these shortcomings and not be humble, not ask for help, think I had the answers, self-serving, self-seeking, all that sort of stuff. And so it was in that moment where everything started to change. You hear people all the time say, like, oh, that's when the rubber hits the road, and that's when you start asking for help, and that's when, you know, things start really changing. You start becoming this new person. Some of these defects and shortcomings, these ways of living, all these things, you know, start to kind of fall away without you even really realizing. And I mean, my career changed, my living situation changed, and those changes, like, my whole outlook changed, my perspective changed, like how I treated myself, then how I treated others, like everything started to change. But it was that relationship with that higher power. And after that, when that experience was so heartbreaking and humiliating in a different way, like, I know I deserved to get fired, but like in that moment, it was just, I thought I was never going to speak to my family again. And like, right? People come in here having already broken families, right? But like, I still had them, and then to be in the rooms and then lose them, it was like, well, I'm doing this so wrong. Something is so wrong. And that's where I learned to have trust and faith right in my higher power. Because just like the opposite of drugs, right? Where drugs took me lower all the time, that relationship with that higher power, right? It always brought me out of my despair. It always brought me out from that broken pit in my life. And the greatest thing about the whole higher power piece, right, is like drugs, they run out. Drugs, they cost money. Like higher power, it's always there and it never runs out. And so realizing that and changing the way I prayed, the way that works for me and the way that some other people I know in this program also pray, is that it's not about specific things. Don't get me wrong, that's not how it started. When I started, it was, God, please help them see I'm right and they're wrong. And then it eventually, like, God changed my perspective. God, help me see what you see. Like, God, help me to ask somebody else. Like, so it was me doing the change. And I still pray like that all the time because I don't know sometimes what I need. I don't know what I need to pray for. I don't know how God is going to show up in my life and change something. But from that first time of like begging and pleading, not really having a lot of trust in my higher power, not having any real personal experience of how my higher power shows up, just kind of going on that blind faith that everybody in the rooms had told me about. Now, the way that's evolved today is that I know my higher power is going to show up, right? And so there's a lot of times recently where I've talked about spiritual amnesia. It's like, am I forgetting, like, all the things my higher power has done in my life? Like, where's my faith in this? And those shortcomings, still appear all the time. A couple months ago, there was some similar situation at work where, like 6 years ago when I was getting fired and everything was getting lost. But today, right, the way the shortcomings and the defects appear, it's on a much smaller scale, right? They don't have as harmful as effect to not only my life but the people around me, right? And so I didn't get fired from a job today, but I just had like a discussion that was super unpleasant with a supervisor. And so I call my sponsor afterwards and I'm crying on the phone to her of like, why, like, have I not learned anything? Like, how is this still happening? And she's like, right now in this moment, like, are you learning? And I was like, oh my God, it's like right in front of my face and I'm like still missing it. And that like being present, like really kind of appeared of like my higher power is always there. Like I just need to, sometimes I like get caught up in, well, like this is how I should be praying instead of just having that conversation with my higher power, like, oh, this is how I should be praying because then maybe it'll work better. I'm like, why don't I just start praying and talking to my higher power? And whenever I do that, things come out. It's just like a conversation. The way I view it today is that my higher power can be my best friend if I choose to use it that way. And so it can be just a conversation, just like with a sponsor or sponsee or anybody else in the program. They talk about in the Step Working Guide something where like you can make your own like 7-step prayer. Somebody maybe told me that, and I think the first time I did the 7-step, I just recreated what you guys had already told me. And what is it? Take my will, my life, guide me in my recovery, show me how to live. And it's like, take my will, my life, and my defects, show me how to live in assets by doing the next right thing, guide me in my recovery. And I would just say that in the morning. But that as you evolve in the steps, and then the 11th, that conscious contact piece, that a prayer can really be like a conversation throughout the whole day. I don't have to just say like one prayer and then, oh, that didn't work, so, well, and my prayer didn't work. I really had to like get creative in the beginning to, we come in here with all these I came in here with all these preconceived notions of like how this was supposed to happen, and learned real quick that like my higher power is not a genie in a bottle. Like I can't just like throw one prayer up there and like think this is gonna work. And so the way I had to like trick myself in the beginning was like, you know, on radio stations where there's static, like when my higher power wasn't delivering the way I thought it should be in the time frame I wanted, there was that static, right? Like, why isn't this working? And it's like, oh, maybe my higher power is setting things up. Maybe my higher power is like, you know, moving some pieces around so like things will be like the way they're supposed to be now that like I'm trying to like live a higher power's will, right? And that would like, that little thought process would like get me through the waiting time in the beginning, you know, until I had enough of my own experience to know that my higher power will show up when I least expect it. And my higher power always shows up with something better than I ever imagined, which is why I think I cling so dearly to like, I can't pray for something so specific. Because I've never done that, and so when I haven't done that, I've gotten something better than I've ever imagined. This past year was really tough with shortcomings and defects. Something similar happened to like when I first came in the rooms, and you know, I had that ego, that arrogance, that thinking I knew how to run things, and I should be telling my supervisors how to do their jobs. And so I was removed from an internship, and luckily for me, my professors didn't dismiss me from the program. And I got to have another internship, which I'm almost, God willing, please, like almost done and graduated. But it was it's similar to when I first came in the rooms, when I was beaten and broken and not willing to do anything. That's when my higher power showed up. And so this summer I started like working at a steel mill and like thinking that like, yeah, maybe if all else fails, well, I can just like sell steel. Like, I know nothing about steel. Like what am I doing? But literally thinking, well, like, okay, at least this might be an option. And it was when I had that thought process and seriously started to contemplate it, I got a phone call, and it's like, oh, here's this other internship opportunity. Like, you're going to make it. You're going to get through. But the way it's been for me is like never on my time frame. It's my higher power's time frame, and it's always in the 11th hour. But it's always something better than I expected, right? Like this second internship is in a different department, and I'm learning so many things that I wasn't exposed to before, and most people actually aren't. And by the way, my internships are always unpaid, like my industry, and this one I have a stipend. Like, excuse me? Like, what? But that's my higher power doing for me what I can't do for myself. And so, again, that little experience is, I can't pray for something specific. It has to be like, God help me see, God make me realize, like, God show me what I'm supposed to do, like, you know, these big, general, like, overarching prayers, you know, your will, not mine, like, all those sorts of things, because the second I take my will back in my prayer and, like, want to get demanding with God, that's never going to work. At least for me, it doesn't. There's one more thing I thought I was just going to say. I don't remember. So, I think that's all I got. Thank you so much.